Okay everybody, this is mooneydashcam. Today we're in Gravesend Brooklyn. We're going to be talking about a Colombo mob hit that ended up getting a nun killed. Follow me on Instagram at mooneydashcam. Don't forget to leave suggestions for future videos in the comments. I very much appreciate that. Alright, let's get into it. You thought I would forget? Let's flip this around and get into it. Okay, this all went down January 4th, 1982. The address that we're going to is 431 Lake Street in Gravesend, like I mentioned before. Alright, so to tell the full story, we got to rewind a little bit back to 1970. And we have to talk about a few gangsters that were in the porn industry. So, one guy named Anthony Peraino, his son was in the porn industry with him, and then also Anthony Peraino's brother and his son, Joseph Peraino Sr. and Joseph Peraino Jr. Saying that name a lot, that's confusing. Now, Anthony Peraino was previously made into the Profaci family, which ended up turning into the Colombo family. So he probably had a little bit more pull, I would say. Maybe he was, had seniority over his brother and his brother's son, who were Colombo captains. But I'm not sure, they might have gotten involved early on too. They were always working on small-time films until the movie Deep Throat. I'll show you a poster of that. It was a hit. Sonny Franzese actually partially funded the movie. Came out in 1972. It was actually the first ever mainstream porn movie. Apparently it made so much cash that instead of counting it, they would weigh it. I don't know if you guys don't know. Each bill weighs a gram, so if you have a bunch of 1s, 20, whatever denomination, weigh it, and then however many grams that is, that's how many bills you have there. It's a common drug dealer thing. Yeah, there were also claims, there's a documentary about the movie that claimed that it made $600 million, which other people are outraged at that ridiculous number. One of the more credible numbers out there is just between two theaters alone, it made $100,000 a week. So it was serious money, especially back in 1972. Alright, so fast forward to 1982, where all the problems start. Anthony Peraino starts complaining to his friends in the Colombo family that his own family is stealing from him, talking about Joseph Peraino Sr. and his son, Joseph Jr. This eventually gets back to Carmine Persico, known as the Snake. He was the boss at the time. This is right around the time, a little bit before the wars went on, so he was still the boss and respected as such. So, Persico is mad because you take money from Anthony, you're taking money from him. So he took that personally. So he goes ahead and invites them to a meeting. We all know how a mob meeting goes when someone wants you rubbed out. It's pretty much, hey, come here, we're going to kill you. They don't know it. Sometimes they have a suspicion. So January 4th, they're told to meet at 8 p.m. on a small, quiet road, village road in Gravesend, Brooklyn, which is where we're going. So that's what they do. I believe they get driven there. I don't know if they drove themselves there, because I would imagine they would jump back in their car, but I believe they were driven there and dropped off. Now, this is where things get a little bit confusing because there are two accounts of what happened that day. There's one account from a Colombo captain named Big Sal Misiota, who became an informant, but later on was so discredited as an informant because there was an attorney that actually said that he would never let Big Sal on the stand to make a statement ever again. So we have his version of the story, which is very convenient. And then later on, we'll get into the other version. Whoa, everyone, what's going on here? Okay. So, Big Sal's version, which is, I'm cautious to believe it, is that they had a driver, John Minerva, that took them there. And the shooters were Vincent Angelino, whose nickname was Jimmy, and Big Sal. That they had shotguns and they were posted up. Now, I don't think that's really what happened. I really think that Tommy Shots Gioeli, who later on became the Colombo boss, was one of the shooters, along with Joseph Peraino, whose nickname was Junior Lollipops. So this right here is the road that they were supposedly dropped at, the father and son, Peraino Senior and Junior. So, of course, we're by the hydrants. My best friend for these videos, bro, you're going the wrong way down a runway. A one-way, not a runway. I got marbles in my mouth today. Okay, so this is the quiet block that they were supposed to be shot on. Who knows? Maybe it was that house right there they were called to. It could have been even farther down. Not exactly sure. Say hi to the truck, of course. All right, so now the more credible source, which is Tommy Shots talking to Big Dino Calabro, who's a captain. He said that he feared that he would go to hell for what goes on in the story. So I believe that it was really Tommy Shots and Joseph Peraino in the car. And maybe Big Sal was there because conveniently the two other gangsters that were with Big Sal were both already dead when he confessed all this. So, okay, you get to cop out to a crime, but the two guys that you're incriminating are dead. And he even claimed to be the killer, but not the one who hit the nun. It's a whole big thing. I don't believe it. So we're going to go with the Tommy Shots situation. There were two sawed-off shotguns. They pull up. If they're dropped off, if they get out of the car, I'm not exactly sure. They start getting shot up. They're fleeing for their lives. They run up, and they end up on this block, Lake Street. And they're just seeking shelter. Now you could imagine hearing gunshots from a car and you and your son are walking and you know what's going down now. So you're trying to seek shelter anywhere that you can. They come down this road, Lake Street, and probably panicking, fearing for their life. See that brick, the red brick building right there on the left? That's 431 Lake Street. That's where they end up. They run up the stairs and hide on the balcony. Now that concrete that you see on the balcony wasn't even there back then. I have a picture of what happened. So they're up here. The son is in front of the father. The son gets blasted and killed. The father gets shot. He gets shot in the ass. He gets paralyzed. They consider the job done. They hop back in their car. They leave. What they don't know is that inside, the resident of this home is Victoria Zuraw. Zuraw, 53-year-old. She was known as Sister Mary Adelaide because she was a nun and a social worker. She ran a charity for Italian immigrants. This lady was like a saint. She was doing the laundry. She heard banging on the door because they banged on the door. They didn't know her at all, but they banged on the door to seek shelter inside. She walks over. A bullet comes through the bottom of the door, hits her in the head, and a cop said about the whole thing. He said, a cop told a reporter, referring to the husband. 1 minute, he's watching TV. Next minute, he gets up and his wife's head is blown off. The husband said he heard what he thought was fireworks outside. Crazy. This right here. You can imagine. They were at the upstairs apartment. They only lived at this property for 10 weeks. They moved from an apartment to a house. They were very happy with themselves. Their getaway car was found afterwards. Not too long. Afterwards, very quickly afterwards, actually. So right there. This all went down. Shotgun blast riddled the walls through the door. It was found with the two shotguns, and it never led to anything, for a really long time at least. It's a cool little area. It's a quiet block in an otherwise pretty busy section of Brooklyn. Yeah, so Big Sal said he was the one to make the kill shot, and then the buddy Vincent shot the father in the ass, and he was the one to kill the nun. Of course, he's not going to incriminate himself killing the nun. He's going to put it on the guy who's already dead, which is smart if you want to be an informant and don't actually want to help the police, but...
How's the truck running?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that. The truck's not running too great. Tommy Schatz actually never got in trouble for this crime. When Big Dino presented this to his, I guess, FBI hookup, it wasn't put into court. The lawyer said they were going to take it just to use as evidence that he had a life of crime. All right, back in the truck. Look at those tints. So it turns out Joe Peraino Sr. was a very unlucky guy. He was actually shot a couple times in an attempted hit a couple months before this and lived. I guess he's lucky and unlucky. And then shot again in this and paralyzed. And then the husband, Louis Zuraw, always a hard name for me to pronounce for some reason, didn't get closure for this crime for 30 years. He went 30 years without knowing what happened to his wife, not knowing who killed his wife, and 10 years with no new information at all. Can't imagine how terrible that would be to lose your wife and not really have any explanation of what went on. They had an idea that it was a mob hit, but no suspects, no person to point to. He ended up dying shortly after, a couple of years after. I think he died in 1986, if I remember correctly, of health complications due to alcoholism. They think that his wife dying played a big part in that. Alright, that's pretty much everything I have to tell you about this crazy incident where a nun, I repeat that, a nun was killed by the Colombo crime family. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you in the next one.